Hello everyone. We have gathered here today to explore the world of advanced JavaScript and DOM manipulation. So, uh, I'll first of all request you all to just make set up these folders. So, first of all, an index.html as a main file, any audio file, just if you prefer, or it's okay. A JS folder which would contain a script.js, a CSS folder which would contain the style.css, and just click an enter an exclamation, click on enter, and there will be the boilerplate code. So now just link the CSS and JS. Remember to put in the right positions of CSS in the head and JS just before the body closes. Okay. So just set this up. Till then, I will explain you the flow of today's session. So first of all, these would be the points we would be covering in today's session. So first of all, I'll explain what is let and const keyword, and what is scope, what is scope chain, and what is temporal dead zone or temporal dead state. Then we would be moving on to discuss event listeners, and basically we would be discussing the click event in the first part. Then we would be revising the concept of execution context so that things become easy for you when we dive deep into the explanation of how event listeners work. Then we would be discussing what are anonymous functions. Then basically we would be taking up a task of creating a basic calculator through JavaScript. So our functions concept are strengthened, and we could then move on to discuss higher order functions and addition of multimedia, that is audio. Then we would be discussing about the this keyword, basically the window and the this keyword. Then constructors. Then we would be discussing about event listeners, which is the key press event. Then switch statements, methods, basically what is the difference between methods and functions. Then and closures in JavaScript. So basically all the topics I've listed basically just a subset of what is basically the entire domain of big domain of JavaScript. So these all are the best topics and the most asked interview questions. So just stay focused and let's start. So okay. So first of all, let's discuss what are let and const keyword. So for that, just open your JS file. So I hope everyone has set up the basic structure: index.html, an audio file, a JS folder, and a CSS folder containing the contents. So let's just start. Okay. So first of all, let's discuss what are let. Basically, let is also a declaration, just like we do var a equal to 20. Okay, and we just console log this. First of all, let's just test if everything is well linked up or not. Okay, so we are in here, and yeah, so everything works fine. So let's just start. So basically, in variable, what can we do? We can update the declaration anytime we prefer. So if I do a equal to 30, so basically here a equal to 30 would be printed out when we do console. So we are basically able to override the a equal to 20 value. But if we declare here let, so basically let is a more stricter version of variables. So if I do let a equal to 20 in here, so basically if I redeclare it, so basically if I do a equal to 30 in here, so basically you would see, just a sec, let A equal. So basically you would see a syntax error that identifier A has already declared. So basically, what is this error? So basically, we cannot redeclare in let keyword. There is a constraint that we cannot redeclare the same variable just by changing its value. Okay, so that's basically how let and variable are different. One another difference between let and variable is that suppose we do var a equal to 30. Okay, so as we have seen in the hoisting, the lecture we discussed hoisting, here the output undefined will be uh, declared because of the execution context. But if I do the same thing in let, basically undefined is not an error. It's basically a value assigned to your variable because till now it has not been assigned a value. So what value would there be? So now it shows reference error because though it has been declared, it is not receiving the undefined value uh, because there's a separate block which gets created whenever you do let a. So let's just see how it looks in sources. Let's just deep dive and if we go to the JS folder script.js and if I debug this, okay, so and let's just start worker. Okay, so let's just move on. So as you would have noticed, there's an anonymous function and it is stored in the script. The A is stored in the script block basically. But here the whenever we declare a variable, so it is declared in the global execution context. But here a script execution context is created wherein A is created. This is what the temporal. So basically A here is hoisted. Basically A here is hoisted, but the only difference between variable and let and const keyword is that it gets allotted a different execution context, and until and unless you do not declare it, means initialize it within value, it would not be it would not work. Okay, so if I do this and then I debug it again. Okay, so now I debug it. So here A becomes 30. So now there is no error or something. Okay, so now the console just prints out 30. Okay, so I'll show you. Okay, let me just close the debugger and we refresh and you would see 30. Okay, so that's what let is. So now let's just discuss const. So basically in let, if you would see, I declare a let here, let a, and I initialize after declaration. Okay, so you would see that there is no change, there is no error. But same thing if I do it with const. Okay. So const basically is a more stricter version of let. So well, uh, from variable we proceeded to let, and now const is the strictest version you can have. Okay, so you would see uncaught syntax error, missing initializer in const declaration. So basically what this error means is that const needs to be initialized as and when it is declared. So if I do this, you will not see any error and a equal to 30 would be printed. Okay, so this is what let and const keywords are. I'd show you the use case of it. once we move on forward, basically in the preference wise, we should use const more often than let, and in very rare case we should use var. Okay, so basically let's just discuss what are scope chain, and we have already discussed the temporal dead state. So basically, if an interviewer asks you that are let and const keywords hoisted, so basically in the interview your answer should be that let and const variables are hoisted, but they are in the temporal dead state. Thus, uh, thus they throw an error when we output it before the declaration. Okay, so now let's just discuss scope and scope chain. Basically, scope and scope chain are very important topics, but first of all, you should know what block is before that. So block basically are these two braces. So everything inside the braces is a block. So basically, everything you write inside the braces is a local memory of this block. Basically, why do we need block? Okay, so let's just discuss that first. So if I declare var a equal to 30, I console log, and if true, print out true. We console log true. Okay. So basically, what is the use of block? We should discuss that first. So basically, when everything to be declared in just one line, multiple statements to be taken as a single statement. So basically, if we do this, if true equal to console.log true, basically you would see that 30 and true gets printed. Okay, so basically, but if I remove this line, it would throw an error that unexpected end of input. Okay, so what does block do? It creates a single statement out of multiple statements. So if I declare here console.log 2 and console.log JavaScript is awesome. Okay. So you would see that it has considered both of these lines as one single line and executed the program. Okay. So that's why blocks are used to make multiple statement to wrap it into a single statement. Okay, so it's like basically if you go for travel and you just have to carry one luggage with you, so you wouldn't be allowed to means carry a toothpaste in one hand, brush in one hand, and then carry entire of your luggage clothes in one hand, then you won't be able to go. So basically we are packing all our stuff inside this block and making it into one single statement. Okay, so that's what block are used for, and everything inside the book, everything declared inside the block is basically this block's local memory, and everything declared outside it is basically the global scope, means the global memory. So the global memory, basically the global scope, can access only the variables that are declared inside it, but basically the block can access all the variables inside it and also that are present in the global scope. So this is what lexical environment is. Please be patient, I will explain you what lexical environment is just in a matter of time. But first of all, let's see what local and global environment is. So if I declare var a equal to suppose 50, let's just say b, and if I console log a b, so it would print just fine. 50. And if I console log A, this would also be printed out. Okay, 30, as we expected. But if instead of here, I console log B here, so console log A, console log B, okay, so it should be left. Okay. So these would be a reference error because we are actually accessing the local memory of the block and not the means let B has not been declared in the global scope. It has been in the declared in the local memory. So we cannot access it outside the scope, outside the scope of the if block. So if I declare it here, everything would work fine. Okay. So that's what scope is. So scope chain is basically, if I say about the lexical environment I just said. So basically lexical environment is the entire function, means let's just create a function x, okay, and a function y. So basically this is the beauty of JavaScript. You can declare functions inside functions and you can also return functions inside functions. Okay. So if you are coming from any other language, this might seem impossible for you, but that's how JavaScript is. That's how the beauty of JavaScript is. So if I do console log A and if I declare a variable A equal to 30, okay. If I call Y in here and X in here, so basically you would see 30 has been printed in. Okay, if I just do it 50, so you would see 50 has been printed. But you would imagine that uh, variable A has not been declared inside the function Y. It has been declared inside function X. So why is it being printed? So basically, if we see the lexical scope, so basically the function X can receive all the elements of the global variable, global memory, which are available in the global memory, and its own variables. So basically, lexical environment is the environment of its parent, which is in the case of X global, and its own memory. So it's a combination of both of these. Okay. So and function Y basically can output A because its parent is X. Okay. And its lexical scope means basically it has not declared anything in it, but its lexical scope contains a variable A which has been initialized as 50. Okay, so that's how lexical scope, scope chain, and everything works. So I hope everything is clear till now. Anyone having any doubts? None? Okay. So let's just proceed with event listeners. So this is a great topic to discuss. So let's just follow me out. Just make 6 buttons, okay, and just give them different classes. Suppose class equal to A button A. Just print out these buttons. B B C C D D E E and F. Okay. And now from the previous lectures you might be knowing, if you are new to this, so basically document is the entire browser, means the entire code we have written, and get element by id. Okay. we just do query selector. These are all DOM commands. So we just select button and query selector, and we just add an event listener to it. Okay, basically event listeners accept two parameters. One is the event which you need to track, and the other is a function which you need to see. Okay. So basically, let's just store the number of buttons we have. Okay. So basically, what I want to do now is that I should have 6 buttons. Okay. Let's just comment this out. I should have 6 buttons. And when I click a button, I want a message that this button has been clicked. Okay. So basically, we just give the buttons. So button, a margin of 1 rem. Okay. The style sheet, and we just uncomment this part. So in a variable counter, we store the count of the button. So we have 6 buttons. So how do we store the count of the button? So it's pretty easy. We just document it, select the buttons. Okay, we do selector all, query selector all. This would basically give us an array, and if we do length, okay, so this basically would give us the length of the array, which would be 6. So now we just run a for loop for always use a let. Basically, JavaScript is a loosely typed language. So loosely typed language means you do not have to define data types, but there are certain constants which have been declared. So let constant var are those types. So let's just move ahead. I is less than counter. Okay. So by default, the indexing starts from 0. So we do not do I equal to less than equal to counter, as it would then consider 7 buttons. And in the for loop, we just put this statement in. Basically, now we just make 2 functions. Suppose I make this function. Suppose I declare a function handle click. Okay. So as in when this function, when a click event occurs, as in when a click event occurs, I would call the handle click function. Okay. So basically just console log. This just console logs button has been pressed. Okay. So basically when a click event occurs, it does handle click. It calls the handle. You would see that I have not called the function by using the round braces, because when the click event occurs, then we want to call the handle click function. If I do this, then basically every time it gets into the for loop and it finds a button, it would call the handle click function without even worrying about the click event. Okay. So basically, if we just see what's the output, so there are 7 buttons created, and basically it was if we click on any button, you would see that console will print out button has been pressed. Okay, so I just go into the code, do it over here. Okay. So now every time I click a button, just see and make this load. So that's basically how event listeners work. So we just call the function handle click whenever it gets pressed. Okay. So that's how this works. Okay. So now basically if we dig deep into how this is working, so that's basically how you would get the feel we had, what we had promised you in this event. So let's just dig deep, right? Okay. So basically add event listener, what does this do? This sets up a function that will be called whenever the specified event is delivered to the target. So basically whenever the click event occurs, it would call the handle click function. Okay. So basically, button has been clicked or some key has been pressed. That is what event listeners hear about. It's just like a boy who tells you everything which happened in the class if you are absent or so. So it's a sincere student. Okay. So now you just, this is basically the syntax of how add event listeners are added. Basically, now we could discuss about the anonymous function also straight away. So basically, uh, most developers do not prefer calling the function each and every time we do a click. So basically, I just do without any name. Okay. So this is called an anonymous function. So basically, if we go to the PPT, anonymous functions are basically functions which do not have any name. But the point to be noted is that it can only be used inside a function as an argument or a parameter. So basically, if I declare a function, anonymous function basically, without passing it into a parameter or argument, you could just see that VS Code is giving us an error that is identifier expected. So basically, they cannot live alone. They need to be passed as a parameter or an argument. So if I just console log in here that just a previous message that button has been pressed. So this is how anonymous functions work. So they do not have a name, but when they are passed inside any function. So what is add event listener? So this is basically an object that we have selected, and this is the function inside the object. Okay, which handles the click, and it calls a function whenever the click occurs. So this is basically what we are doing here. So if I refresh this, and now if I click A, B, C, D, E, so basically the function gets called. Okay. So that's how anonymous functions work. So that's the working of anonymous functions. Now let's just dig deep right into how everything is working around when the click event occurs. Okay. So first of all, I had discussed about the execution context in my previous lectures, but if anyone has missed those, so basically execution context is basically, this is the global execution context. As you could see, it has been divided into two major parts. One is the memory, which is also called the variable environment, and the other is a code section, which is also called the thread of execution. So basically, JavaScript is a synchronous single threaded language. So basically, synchronous means it can execute only one line at a time, and before only after execution of that one line, it could move on to execute the second line of code. So that what means by synchronous and single threaded application. So basically, whenever I declare any function, they get declared in here. Suppose I declare a variable a, so it gets declared in here. Suppose let's just, so if I declare a variable a, so the JavaScript browses through the code. It uh, it collects basically all the variables in a bucket, and it assigns undefined value to all of that. Okay, so that's the reason why when we printed out console log just before declare assigning any value to a, it showed undefined. So basically, what does JavaScript do? It basically assign undefined value to all the variable in this variable environment, and the functions are by itself copied with their entire code. They it is like a smaller piece of code that when we divide a function. So basically, that's how execution contexts work. So basically, if you see through this, this is a representation of how execution context works. So I declared a variable a, so it got declared. Then a function, when the function gets called, it gets stacked over the global execution context. So function a is called, then function b is called, it got stacked, and when once we return the value, then it gets erased by from the stack. And once the entire code is run, then the global execution context also gets erased. Okay, so now basically how the click event is working behind the scene, this is what basically is the good part. So basically, when we declare the program, a global execution context, just like here, a global execution context gets declared. And when we call the click event, basically click event, set timeout, this is all not basically a part of JavaScript. It's basically the part of a browsing environment. So we have web APIs in browser, if anyone knows. So basically, set timeout, DOM APIs, fetch basically calls in the server. It is used in API integration. So fetch console.log. So basically, console.log is also a web API. It is not a part of JavaScript. So basically, whenever we call these functions, they get stacked in the call stack. They call uh, basically the click event. So click event is a DOM API. We are basically accessing the button. We are, whenever a click event occurs, we have assigned it to a button. So whenever the button gets clicked, the click event is called. So basically, whenever a JS engine sees that event listener is has been declared, so it basically stores a separate memory in here, wherein the click event is stored, the variable with the click event is stored. And basically, whenever the click event occurs, it gets transferred to the callback queue. And from the callback queue event, what does event loop do? It keeps a check whether the call stack is empty or not, and whether the callback queue has any function or not. So whenever a click event occurs, from the callback queue, the event loop picks up the basically the function which has to be taken in the click event, and it stacks it over the call stack. Okay, so that's how the entire click event occurs. So whenever a button gets clicked, it get the web API gets called, the DOM APIs. The function gets stored. It gets into the callback queue. Event loop checks it. Once the call stack is empty, it passes it into the call stack. The command gets executed and it gets popped out of the call stack. That's how basically the event loop is. Anyone has any doubts up till now? You can type it in the chat section. Sanjay is keeping track of that. Okay. So now that's how event listeners work. Now let's just dig deep right into what are anonymous function. We have already seen what are anonymous functions. So they are functions which do not have name. So now let's just move into the task one, that is basic calculator for understanding the working of function. Okay, just to give you an example, if anyone has missed, that means if any one of you did not understand the lexical scope. So suppose you are living in a farm, okay? So basically you have a house built inside that. So you basically own a farm, okay? You have a house built inside it, and inside that you have a kitchen, okay? So basically, what is house? It is a function basically. Uh, just suppose it as a function, and kitchen, a nested function inside house. Okay. So basically, farm is the global execution context. That's the land you have. You can play around anything you want in that very land. Okay. So basically, I have a farm, I have a house inside it, and I have a kitchen. So basically, in the farm I have some crops grown, okay? So now I cannot bring in the house variables. Means suppose I go outside in the farm, and suppose I need a fan in there because there's much heat in the farm, so I cannot just plug out the fan from the house and just put it in the farm. So basically I can't use the variables inside the house into the farm, but I can bring the crops from the farm if I am hungry and I need some crops which I have grown. So I can basically plug them and use it in my house. So that means basically variables inside the farm can be used in the house, but basically the resources inside the house cannot be used in the farm. Okay, so similar is with kitchen. Kitchen can use the resources of the house. Means instead of if I spend more time in kitchen, I could place not means not inside the hall. So that would basically compensate. So but we cannot take the entire kitchen to the farm if we need we need to cook something with the crops available. So that's how lexical scope was. I think you would have understood it better. So now let's just move on to the task one. This task would In this task, what do you need to do? Basically, you need to create a basic calculator using functions. Okay, so you all can work around this problem statement with me. You'd get basically a deeper idea about what functions are, so that you could more betterly get the crisp of higher order functions and how callback functions work. So whatever I've covered till now have been asked in many interview questions. So what is scope? What is scope chain? What is temporal dead state? How do let and const keyword basically function? So that has been asked, and pretty good companies, Ola, Zomato. So please keep track of them. Okay. So now let's just create a calculator. Okay. So basically, what should we means basically when we code everything in the interview, what should we keep track of? That our code is always kept modular, and everything is pretty much well defined inside the function. So we should always means separate out the bigger problem into smaller functions. That's how we should code in an interview anywhere we go. So okay, I declare a function. I take N1 and N2. Basically, N1 and N2 would be the numbers we would declare after this, and we declare N1 and N2. We basically console log. We just return N1 plus N2. We are basically creating a calculator. So basically, this is the add function. Similar to this, we could create multiply, divide, and subtract. That's how basically a non-linear works. So this is multiply, multiplication, and this is basically divide. So, and this is subtract. Okay, subtract n1 minus n2. And now we declare a function where everything from where we can call these functions whenever we need. Okay, so function calculator, and basically it accepts the parameters. Basically, these are the parameters. They are different from arguments. Let's see how they are different. Okay, n1, n2, and an operation. So basically, now we just console log when n1 and n2 gets called, we call in the particular method. Okay. Operation. Basically, what are we doing in here? When we get the n1, n2 parameters, we take it in, then we call then we pass in operation which we want to take in. So if I do by calling this calculator function, and if I pass in the parameters, say 1, 2, and basically add. Okay, so what will this do? It will take 1, it will take 2, and then do the add operation. So basically, it will call the add operation in this. Okay, so that's how everything would work. Let's just see if our code is working fine. So fingers crossed. Sure. In here. Yeah. Okay. So in one into. Now everything should work fine. So yeah, this is 3. So basically we have added, if we do 10 into 20 and multiply. Okay. So have been multiplied. So how this works behind the scenes, let's just see. So we go into the JS folder and we keep a debugger in here. Okay. So whenever we call a calculator function, what happens behind the scenes? So 10, 20, and multiply are the arguments passed. So whenever we call a function and the things we pass inside it are the arguments. And basically when we declare a function and the things we pass inside parameters. Okay, so that is the difference between arguments and parameters. So now let's just debug this code. Okay, so what happens when a calculator function is called? So basically global execution context, just as we discussed, has been created. Now a calculator function gets called. So our main calculator function gets called, and now if you would see, the parameters have been passed 10, n2 is 20, and basically operation is f multiply, function multiply, which we have declared above it. So this function basically. So now everything gets allotted to it. Now let's just go to the next line. So basically now if you would see, the control moves on to multiply. The multiply function is called and the parameters n1 and n2 are passed. Now basically it returns. Whenever we return a value, the function gets erased. So now the function gets erased. Now basically the calculator function will again be called. It would console log everything out. So basically what did it do? Operation f multiply was called, n1 and n2 were the parameters, and n1 was 10 and n2 was 20. Okay, it accepted it, it outputted it. Now in the next step, it got erased, and now once the whole code has been executed, everything gets out of the execution context. So this is how everything works behind the scenes. I hope you got a feel something how JavaScript code works. So moving on forward, let's just see how we could add multimedia, that is audio, whenever the basically an event occurs. Okay, so now if I suppose I in the previous statement, once this function has been called, suppose I want to call in a audio sound basically whenever this occurs. So I declare a variable audio, create a method. So basically, whenever we call a function inside an object associated with an object is basically called a method. So this is basically a method. So as you could see, it accepts a file. So I do this chime sound effect. Just bear with me. Effect.mp3. Okay. So now we call basically a play function inside this object. So now whenever you would click the button, you would see that sound would be. I hope everyone could hear that out. Okay. Could anyone hear that? Mm, okay. So it basically got it basically worked, means our code is working fine. So basically I declared a variable audio. The new I declared an HTML audio element, means basically this is a constructor basically which gets called. Now basically we have declared that once a button gets clicked, we want this to occur. So basically this. And that's how everything works. Okay, so now if we get back to the state and do console.log and pressed. Okay, just check out this code, and now every button press would be called every time we console it. Okay. Undefined add event listener. Query selector button I. Okay, so let's just now proceed. Okay, so now let's just discuss what higher order functions are. Okay, so if we declare a function inside a function, and if we return that function, it's basically called a higher order function. So I show you in the PPT. So basically a function that either takes a function as an argument or returns a function, that basically is a higher order function. And the function which is inside the higher order function is called a callback function. What I just spoke about. So this is a function x, and it just console log. I just console log you are inside x. Okay, or just x. It just sees set timeout also side by side. Okay, we create a set timeout function. Set timeout. It accepts two parameters. So basically, we declare a function inside it, an anonymous function, and it also takes in the intervals we need. Means we this is the milliseconds, so we want it to stay back for 1 second. So we just do that console.log, and we just output that well, I love JS. Okay. So and now we just call in a y function. And when I declare this, see, just keep your eyes in here. When I just declare it, I pass in a function y as an argument inside x, and you could see that there is no error. So basically, this is how JavaScript is unique, and this is what JavaScript, the magic lies inside JavaScript. You could pass a function inside a function as an argument. So that's pretty awesome. So console.log y. So now if you would see how this everything gets output. So just give your get the chat box what would be the output. With welcome I love JS be printed first, then X, then Y, or the second option is X, Y, and welcome I love JavaScript. Okay. So just remember the concepts we have just discussed, and let me know what are your views. So just tap in into the chat section and just uh, write option one or option two. Option one is welcome I love JavaScript, then X, then Y, and option two is X, Y, then welcome I love JavaScript. Okay, let's just see. So basically, X is the higher order function here, as function Y is passed as an argument, and function Y is the callback function. Okay, let's just see the output. So just a sec. Y has gotten reference error. Function Y. The xcal it's called set timeout for 1 second. Seems fine. Means basically the error is that we cannot access Y. So let's just see what the issue is. So I call X and printf Y in here. Okay, yeah. I forgot the semicolon in here. Should get resolved. Y is undefined. Let's just define Y inside this. Once Y gets called, let's just see now what the output is. Okay, so XY gets printed out, and then welcome I love JavaScript is printed. So now let's just see how everything in set timeout works. Set timeout basically sets a timer to this function, and after that, so if you have noticed, basically JavaScript is a synchronous single threaded language, as I said, but uh, X and Y gets printed out. It does not wait for this part to be executed. Okay, and everything gets outputted. So basically, XY gets printed out and then welcome I love. It should be welcome I love JavaScript and then XY. Once this gets printed out, then this should print out. But this is an asynchronous operation that has been done. So how basically this happens? So basically, just let me try out this once more. There's a reference error. No issues. Okay, we will just discuss about that. And so basically, what this happened when we call the set timeout? Let's just see that. So basically, if we see this, so once we call the set timeout function, it calls the web API set timeout, and it basically attaches a timer along with that variable. So whenever the timer expires, it gets into callback queue, and the event loop checks the stack and it gets into. So basically, if we see the set timeout is basically uh, the minimum time it would take. Means if there are millions of lines after set timeout, I have written millions of lines of code, then set timeout will have to wait till the stack becomes empty, and only then it would be able to enter the basically call stack and execute itself. So basically, if I type in 1 second, so and thereafter I have written millions of lines of code, then after that lines get executed, only then will set timeout function be called into the call stack and be executed. Okay, so that's how set timeouts function. So basically, just let me check what's the issue. Okay, this is the issue. I have figured out the issue, and so all right. Let's see if the code works fine now. So basically, I call a y function. I declare a y function inside this function y, and I just console log this. Okay. So if I now check my code, xy gets printed out, and then welcome I love JS gets printed out after 1 second. So basically, when a function is passed as an argument inside a function, so basically we also need to pass in a parameter. So I have passed in a function y as a parameter to x, so that whenever I declare it, so basically this is how everything works behind the scenes. So this x is the higher order function here, and the thing which is passed as an argument, that is y. This is the callback function. And basically, what does callback do? Let's callback. Okay. So this is how everything is executed. Now let's just go behind the scenes and let's just add a debugger at the set timeout. Okay. You could notice what happens. Okay. I would add in. Okay. Let's just check how everything works. Okay. Let's just add a debugger and let's just prepare. So if you could see, there's a async. Async is basically it is the call stack. This function basically is for 1 second waiting in the call stack to be called once the call stack becomes empty. So just keep your eye in here. Okay. So now 1 second has passed. Now you could see that our console has welcome.js. Okay. So before, if I show you, I start this again, the debugger. So up till now, nothing has been outputted. Now, okay. Now the function gets called. Now xy are output. now the entire function would be empty because we would have reached, after we have console logged y, we would have reached the end of the program. So now anonymous function will also go, but once this means basically this anonymous function gets called. So now we would see that console log, it console logs this, and then everything gets erased. Okay, so that is how set timeout works, and this is basically how higher order functions are declared. Basically pass in a parameter of a function you want to declare inside the main function, and then just declare it inside. And basically you could also do one awesome thing in here by just calling x. I just place this y inside x. Okay, and if I just do console log y, okay, so I can return a function also. No parameter. Okay, so now if I go to the console, where debugger, remove the debugger. Now you would see X and welcome, I love this. Okay, so basically why did this not get printed out? Because basically we console log X, and then basically we have not called in this. Okay, so now if I call this y, encoder y is not defined. Okay, it should be called here. So now you would see welcome, I love this. Okay, so if I declare a function, then I return it. Let's just, so now we go on to the this keyword. So basically when we want to call in y, then it's now if we just go into this, go into this keyword. So basically when we call in a web API, so basically it calls in this window is called, this is called basically a window. Okay, so now if I show you, so if I write window dot console, so I am basically calling a web API console in here. Okay, dot log window called. This is similar to calling console.log. Okay, so window called. So this is similar to calling a console.log. So by default, it is console.log. So whenever you are calling, whether it is a this keyword or a window, so they both work the same. So basically, if I show you the shortest JavaScript program, it is an empty program, because if I type in window here, you would see this entire window has been created without even writing any. So basically, this is the magic of JS Engine as it works behind the scenes. So this is basically how the shortest JavaScript program. Okay, so if we call this inside a method, if we call this keyword inside a method, okay, it basically prints out the, it basically takes the parameters of the parent. Okay. But if we call in this function inside the normal function or in the global scope, it basically gives the take everything as a global scope. Okay, so let's just show you a demo. So if I declare a const abc and inside it I pass in a, so const abc is this, and if I pass in title basically as name, and basically a function x console dot log x. So how do we declare a method? So this is the name of the method, and this is basically the function. This is the method declaration, but we could also declare it like this. Okay. Now if I do this dot title, and if I just console log it, abc. So now let's just get hold of. So it would be name. So basically, it is outputting the parameter that has been declared inside the ABC. So this is what method is. Okay. So this is how method works. So when a function is associated with an object, it is called a method. Okay. So now if we just move ahead, and if we just see the use case of this keyword, it is basically in constructor. When we want to create many objects out of and pass in the parameters again and again, instead we could generate a factory. So constructor is basically the factory. If I show you how constructors are declared, so basically people, and it gives a name and birth. Okay, two parameters. So basically, constructors are declared with a capital keyword. If you would have seen me type in the keywords before that, it would be a small keyword. So small keyword is basically for a function which is not a constructor, and this is a constructor. So this is this dot name equal to name. Okay, and I type in this dot work equal to. So now if I want to generate many objects out of this constructor, I could do that. So suppose variable p1. Okay. And now I just call a new keyword, and I call the constructor people. And now I just print out basically person one and the work it through SDE. I can create as many function as I want. I do not have to write in a whole new function. If constructors were not there, what would we have to do? We would create a function for people one, pass in the parameters, input the parameters, and then console log it. But here I can create multiple people and just output any property of that people. If I console log, if I want to know the name of the P1 person, then what would I do? I would just do P1 dot name. And now let's just see the output. You would see person one. Person one is the name of the first person. If I do P1 dot what? So this is basically ST. So this is how constructor work. They are like a factory creating objects, and we do not have to redeclare the function again and again. So this makes our code more less cluttered and more to the point, more modular, we could say. Okay, so these are basically constructors. Now let's just see a key press event along with switch statements. Okay, just a second. So we have buttons declared, we have classes associated with them. So now we would do just taking the size of the buttons. So basically for that, you just need to know this keyword event. Like console log event is undefined. So this is just a minute, I will declare it. So variable buttons. So how many buttons do we have? So basically document dot query selector all. Basically we select buttons and we just out store the length of how many buttons we have inside this, and we run a loop for variable I equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus navigator it's button, and now we just call our event listener document dot query select all buttons, and we call I, add an event listener to it, which is key press. This time it is key press, and we call a function once the key is pressed, and this console logs key. Basically for this we would have to basically we have assigned values to this. Okay, a b c d e f. So whenever we would do this, so let's just see how switch statement works. Okay, so basically you call a function, this has a switch statement event.key. And key event, and we call this function xyz. Whenever this function gets called, we just return this. Okay, abc abc ans, and this input event. If I show you what event.key is, it, it basically prints out a. So now if I call this abc, if I declare this function abc, ans function ans, accepts a key, it has a switch statement, which also accepts a key. Switch statement would have cases associated with it. So case, basically if we type in case, let's go. A. So what do we want to output? We want to output A rest to case B. We want to output B rest. Let's just keep it in here and default. No. B rest. Just check the output once. Not read property of undefined trading. Okay. Okay. There's some error. Okay. Just a second. There's key press. Okay. So we just call a function. So that's how everything works. So if I take the reference of this key press lock key, so I call a function lock key. I just pass log key an event and basically declared inside this. So this would basically output log and key pressed. Just this. Event would code. Okay. There's still some errors. So okay. So that's all from my side. We've just discussed what closures are just a sec. Okay. So basically, if we wrap anything inside a function, it forms a closure. Okay. So if I declare a say a variable a value of 5 and basically if I declare this, I have already code of key press event. Just a sec, so that we do not get miss, means we do not miss out on anything. Just a sec, okay. So I have this key press event. Okay. So basically, if we just uncomment it, so what are we doing in here? Let's just see. So basically, we have added a event listener key press, and it passes in a function event, and whenever this gets called, it passes. So, okay, and now to call in a function event that passes an event once the event listener gets called. Okay. So now for case W, whenever the W key is pressed, so now you will see that button one has been called. Okay. So if I just now show you, so whenever I click W, if you go to the console, you'll see. If I go to this, just a second. Okay. Button one got clicked. Now button two got clicked. Now button three got clicked. How does this work basically? So if we dig right into the code, so basically we have declared a counter which counts the number of buttons we have for variable I. Now we take an button as input, add an event listener to it. Basically, this is for the click event. Okay. Now, basically, if we go to key press events, we have passed a function. It takes an event as input. It calls a function with event.key as basically event is the object and key is basically the method called. And now we pass in key, and if W is pressed, then button one got clicked is output. If A is pressed, then button two got clicked, and a default to cover up all the cases. Okay. So that's how key press events work. And now, if I show you the use of closures, this is a final topic. So whenever we declare a variable, it basically is in the global scope. So if I call in a function answer, I console log a. So you would basically be able to access this function. So I just would call this function and just check ans function. So you would see that 5 has been printed out. Okay. So basically this is all good. Okay. So basically if I wrap this around a function, so and I call this no ans and I put all the contents inside this. So basically now you would not be able to output A. If I do console log A from here, I would not be able to see the reference here. So, whenever you want the data to be kept secure and not to be accessible by any global function, then you need to create a closure inside it. What does closure do? It is basically a function. Means you wrap each and every content inside a function. So that's basically what a closure is. So we just console log A, and the A does not get printed. So as a if I do console log answer, will not be able to access answer because is in the closure. Okay, so how does closure look like? So if you just go in here, let's just call going as. Okay, so we do not have any errors. I just put a debugger here. Just refresh it. Local return and so you would see a local memory. Just a second. You would see a local memory created. So this is what closure. So they basically contain everything inside and keep it secure. So you can't access the global memory. So local memory. So basically a equal to 5 is printed out here. Okay, that's why we cannot access it. Okay, so that's what the session was all about. I hope everyone got a clear idea about how everything works behind the scenes. So if I would summarize this session for you, so just to say, so we basically learned about add event listeners. We basically first saw what let const keyword are, what is scope chain, what is temporal dead state. So basically let const keyword are a stricter version of variables. Basically scope, in scope we saw what is local scope, what is global scope. Anything which is declared in the empty file is in the global scope, and everything declared inside a function is a local scope. And what is a scope chain? So basically scope chain is the function's environment, all the variables inside that environment, and the lexical environment of its parent. So that's what scope chain is. And the connection between all that lexical environment is basically the scope chain. And the temporal dead state, so let and const keyword are basically block scope, and they are not hoisted as all the other variables, and they are kept inside a script zone. So they are basically in the temporal dead zone until and unless they are initialized. Once they are initialized, they get enter the global execution context, and then they act as normal variables. So that's what let const keyword were. Event listeners, we saw click keyword. So basically what does click keyword do? Basically whenever the click event occurs, then it calls a function, and basically this function gets executed whenever the click keyword is called. So two parameters, event and the function to be called. Then revision of execution context, what how execution context work, how it has been divided. It has been divided into two parts, and how every variable gets undefined values, and how it basically functions. Global execution context, then whenever function gets called, a new stack is created. So a new frame is created inside the stack. So basically we also understood how event listeners work. Basically event listeners are web apis, DOM apis. So whenever we call event listener, basically web apis are called. It goes into the callback queue. Event loop checks the call stack is empty or not, and they get executed. What are anonymous functions? Functions without name are anonymous. They could only be passed as an argument or when we return a function. Okay. So then we made a basic calculator. Then we saw how to add audio. Then higher order functions. We saw function inside a function passed as an argument, or when we return a function, it is called higher order function. We saw the this keyword. We saw constructors. We saw event listener, which is key press. Uh, I would apologize for making the error, but if I again show you how the key press event was working, so that it could get fit in your mind. So basically, I took the length of the buttons, means how many buttons do I have. Then I did document.add event listener, then key press, then I called a function, then I basically called the function which needs to be executed whenever the key press occurs. So then I made a function called to make sound, and then inside the make sound we passed a key, and whenever this key got pressed, we outputted a simultaneous output for it. Okay, so that's what higher order functions were. Then this keyword is basically the when we make a call to web API, constructors are basically save us the time of creating multiple functions again and again, and just by creating the objects we could do the same thing. Then basically switch statement, basically with the cases we could switch, and methods may we basically saw that any function linked to an object is called a method. Then we saw callback function. So a higher order function, if uh, the function passed inside the higher order function as an argument, is called a callback function. So basically that is callback function. Closures in JavaScript are used for data hiding, and basically they hide the data and do not let access of data from the global space. So anyone has any doubts? So basically, if you do not have any doubts, my friend Sanjay would like to reveal the surprise for you that he has personally been working on. So Sanjay, over to you.
So that was a great session, Hilal. So first of all, I would like to congratulate all of you guys for completing the foundations of web development. This was the last stage of your web development fundamentals journey. So now you guys can explore different frameworks and libraries available out there for web development. And we'll also be taking sessions on Moonstack, so you can also follow along with us. So for the surprise part, what we have planned for you guys is, Hilak, can you stop sharing the screen? Yeah, okay, perfect. So just a second. Yeah. So for the surprise part, you guys might be knowing about Hacktoberfest, right? So what we have done is we have created Hacktoberfest projects in our GDSC DIT web development organization, where you can contribute to projects and practice JavaScript and HTML and CSS. And so here there are multiple projects for all levels of all stages of web development. So beginning with there is SSL, there is SSL flight. This is a company website. The SSL flight website where you can just contribute to HTML and CSS of the website. And there's second thing is God of War API, which is just a simple API for practicing contribution, practicing Git and GitHub, how they work. So in this API, you just have to contribute to the JSON data. It's not some coding part or anything, but that's the only thing for God of War API. Then there's this simple game called HS Sketch, where you can contribute to HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and you just sketch anything here, reset it, and change size of the grid. So this is another project, and for the final part, we have COVID Care, which is a proper, fully fledged website where you can contribute to the front end, the database, or the back end of it. And so you might ask how we can contribute to it. So first of all, you guys have to register at Hacktoberfest official website and link your GitHub accounts to it, and then just select a, just select a project, and you can go to the issues section where all we have laid out all the issues for you guys, so you don't have to search for them. And if you guys find any issues or anything, you can directly contact us on WhatsApp or Discord. And also, once you open the issues section, you can click on any of the issue and ask us to assign it to you. So you can just write a comment on it, like assign me assign me this issue, and we'll assign it to you. So you can directly start working on it. And apart from that, to actually contribute, you can refer the contributing.md file where we have laid the steps for how you can contribute to it, like forking the repo, then cloning it, then adding your files, then committing it, right? So this file is available in this file is available in all the Hacktoberfest projects, so you guys can check it out. And for the rules and regulations, we have put the rules below here, so you check those out as well. Also, apart from that, we have the extra section where we have put some resources for you guys, like this Quasar API is my friend's project, so you can contribute to that, or you can check this out. Awesome first year opportunities, where there are ton of repositories where you can just scroll through or contribute to. So if you check the JavaScript section, you will get uh, there are multiple projects. So if I select the um, Electron. So this is the official Electron project, and there are multiple issues here. So you can just select any one of it and contribute to it, right? Okay. So that's one of the thing. And if you guys face any issues or want to suggest something for the Hacktoberfest project, we feel free to ask us or suggest us. And that's the big surprise, Hacktoberfest projects.
Okay, and as far as the resources are concerned, we have to covered lot of JavaScript, but there are some topics which are yet means which are beyond the scope of this means session. So you could just browse it through. For first is the mark and sweep algorithm. Second are promises. Third is how fetch API works. So basically, fetch API we would be covering in the API session, but for now you could just refer it out. And then mutation observer, then inlining, copy elision, and inline caching. That's these are some of the topics you could explore. And basically, for the resources, I would like to suggest that Akshay Saini's Namaste JavaScript course is a great resource to follow for JavaScript learners. For documentation, basically MDN Docs is the best documentation, and you should keep a practice of referring to documentations, because that's basically the word of mouth means truth. Basically, the developers have themselves devoted time and properly structured all the content inside that. So that's a good resource. And if you are a book lover, a reader, so basically there's a book named You Don't Know JS by Kyle Simpson. That's a great resource you could go through. So that's all for JavaScript, and good luck.
One more thing, if you guys haven't already, if you guys are already part, if you are guys are not already part of the Hacktoberfest, this projects and the GitHub repository, you can DM us for that.
Okay, so if has anyone got any doubt, or should we means end? Just go through the chat section once, and if you have not joined the Discord or any channels, just so that you could contribute. Okay, so we're good. So let's just end the session. Okay.